video, we are going to cover distance and midpoint formula. After studying this section, you'll be able to use the distance formula to compute lengths of segments in the coordinate plane and apply the midpoint formula. So the distance formula, we use the distance formula to find the distance between any 2 points in the coordinate plane with coordinates x1, y1 and x2, y2. We can use the formula the distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So if I'm looking at these examples, I want to use the distance formula to find the distance between each pair of points. So I have points 7, 11 and negative 1, 5. So if I label my x1 and y1 and my x2 and y2, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. Then I'll plug it in my formula. So the distance is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1, so negative 1 minus 7 squared, plus y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is 11, squared. So the square root of negative 1 minus 7, which is negative 8, squared, which is 64, plus 5 minus 11, which is negative 6, squared, which is 36. Square root of 64 plus 36 is the square root of 100. Square root of 100 is 10. So the distance between these two coordinates is 10 units long. Number 2, I have 2 and 0 and 8 and 6. So again, if I label my x1 and y1 and x2 and y2, I can use my formula. So the distance of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared will give me my distance between the two coordinates. Now I can also do x1 minus x2. It doesn't matter the order that you subtract your x's and your y's as long as you are consistent. So I can say 2 minus 8 squared plus 0 minus 6 squared. 2 minus 8 is negative 6, so the square root of negative 6 squared would be 36. 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Negative 6 squared again is 36. So I have the square root of 36 plus 36, so the square root of 72. Square root of 72 I can simplify. That will be 6 root 2. So the distance between these two coordinates is 6 root 2. Now, if I'm given a line in the coordinate plane, I can find the distance between each pair of points. Notice this time it says round your answer to the nearest tenth. So if I want to find the distance between the 2 points, I will simply create a right triangle and find the distance that I am traveling. So my vertical distance is 7 units long, and my horizontal distance is 6 units long. Notice this is a right triangle. The distance formula is essentially the Pythagorean theorem of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Then I would simplify it by taking the square root. So 7 squared plus 6 squared will equal my c squared value. 7 squared is 49, 6 squared is 36. So I'll have the square root of 49 plus 36. The square root of 49 plus 36 will be the square root of 85. If I plug the square root of 85 into my calculator, I will get a rounded answer of 9.2 units long. So the distance between these two pair of points is 9.2 units long. Now I have the midpoint formula. The midpoint in the coordinate plane is the middle point between my points. So the coordinate of the midpoint between x1, y1, and x2, y2 is the average of the x coordinates and the average of the y coordinates. So I'll simply add my 2 x coordinates together, add my 2 y coordinates together, then divide them by 2. So looking at example 9, I have negative 11 and negative 4, and negative 9 and negative 2. So if I add negative 11 plus negative 9 and divide that by 2, and add negative 4 plus negative 2 and divide that by 2, that gives me my midpoint. Negative 11 plus negative 9 is negative 20. Negative 20 divided by 2 is negative 10. And negative 4 plus negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Notice this is a point on the coordinate plane, so I should have this as an ordered pair. So my midpoint of these two coordinates is negative 10, negative 3. Number 10, I have 4, 2, and 8, negative 6. So if I find my midpoint, 4 plus 8 divided by 2, and 2 plus negative 6, so minus 6 divided by 2. 4 plus 8 is 12, 12 divided by 2 is 6. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So my midpoint is 6, negative 2. Now if I want to calculate the midpoint in the coordinate plane, I will simply list my coordinates and then add them together and average them out. So if I look at one of my coordinates, I have it as negative 5, comma negative 5. And my second coordinate is negative 1, comma negative 1. So again, adding these together would give me negative 5 plus negative 1 divided by 2, and negative 5 plus negative 1 divided by 2. Negative 5 plus negative 1 is negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3, and negative 3. So my midpoint is negative 3, negative 3. Notice it looks in my diagram like negative 3 right off the bat would have been my midpoint. I would suggest not using this because it won't always work out this way. This example, it worked out. However, in other examples, it will not work out just visually looking at it. Always add and divide by 2 to find your midpoint. In this lesson, we learned to find the distance between 2 points, take the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And to find the midpoint between 2 points, take the average of the 2 points. That's a wrap on this video. We'll see you in the next one.